You are now listening to the Mythic Rare podcast with your host, Graham Pollard, and the icon, Willie B.
Welcome back to the Mythic Rare podcast. This is episode 3. I'm your host, Graham Pollard, joined as always by the one, the only, the icon, Willie B. Willie B, how's it going?
Oh, I'm doing absolutely splendid. I'm just so excited to be back on this podcast talking about Magic the Gathering and all the other fun stuff that we have lined up for you. I cannot be more thrilled, buddy.
Great. Yeah, we got tons of awesome feedback from episode 1. Really excited to see people out there enjoying it, and we're going to continue that momentum forward. And I'm going to dive right into it, Willie B. I've got a great new segment I'm going to debut, and I've got an incredible name for this segment. It really rolls off the tongue. You ready for this?
Yes, I'm ready for it.
I'm calling it the greater societal issue that can be fixed by Magic the Gathering of the week. How's that for a snappy name?
Oh, man, it just rolls off the tongue so
It really
easily.
does. But anyway, so we did get some feedback saying that a lot of the sports talk we were doing didn't really resonate with fans, with some of the fans of Magic, and I do agree with that now. However, I think this issue kind of transcends sports a little bit, and that is the issue of paying college athletes. So for those who have not heard, currently, earlier this week, the governor of California has signed a bill into law on LeBron James' TV show where he sits in a barbershop and talks to people about whatever he wants to. So I'm sure there's no self-serving interest there. But anyways, the mayor of California went on to LeBron James' show and signed a landmark bill into law that will allow college athletes in the state of California to earn money from endorsements, which has never been done before, and is a massive change in the world of college athletics. And Willie B and I have gone back and forth on this issue before. Willie B, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, you're a big fan of this, right?
Oh, absolute massive fan of this. I think this is huge. I mean, I think it's one of those things like you should always be able to make as much money as possible off of your own name. Like if everybody else gets to make money off of you, you should be able to make money off of yourself. You know, for instance, us here, we're content creators. There is a former football player that got kicked out of college football and banned because he was a content creator on YouTube, and he was silenced because he made money off of the activity that he was going to school for, which is just ridiculous. I mean, for example, that would be like giving a full academic scholarship to somebody, but then now telling them that they can't actually go out and work and, earn money off of their smartness as well, too, until they're out of college. That's the same thing. I'm all here for it. Content creators make the money when they can make it.
Right. So I mostly agree. I think it's a good idea in general, but there's definitely some issues. Like the biggest one, first and foremost, is that it gives an incredible unfair advantage to recruiting in the state of California, since why would you not go to California, to a school in California, if that's the only state you can make money in? So there are issues. However, the good news is we at the Mythic Rare podcast have come up with the solution, the one and only solution that will single-handedly solve this issue, which has flummoxed the greatest minds of our generation for years. And here's what it is. Ready for this, Willie B?
I'm ready for it, Mr. Pollard.
I'm proposing a $50 million, yes, you've heard me, 50 million, 50, Magic the Gathering tournament where you put every single college athlete in to the arena, Dallas Cowboys Stadium, maybe, or even just online. $50 million, the NCAA can afford it. Everyone gets a minimum of, let's say, $20,000. And then, however you do in the tournament depends how much money you make. Therefore, we're rewarding brains in addition to bronze, and there's no recruiting advantage or disadvantage. A long snapper in Iowa has the same chance of winning the grand prize as the greatest star.
All right, I love that idea, Graham. The only problem is if we wanted every college athlete to make $20,000 at minimum, it would need to be a $9.2 billion prize.
Did you just crank out the math on that one?
I did just crank out the math on that one.
Okay, maybe you limit to every football player. Do you have that number readily available?
I can figure it out at some point because there's 460,000 NCAA student athletes.
Okay, well that was slightly more. We can get rid of the track players from that.
Or we could just realistically speaking make it solely Division I, which I know that would cut out.
Okay, that's what I meant. Solely Division I.
Okay,
so that knocks off a bunch of them. but the NCAA can afford it. Plus, it's great for the game of Magic. Plus, it's great for encouraging students to band together in unity over one issue that is that it's more of an academic issue than an athletic issue. Really encouraging the student and the student athlete, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, exactly. I think it would be electric solely for the fact of you just get them all to come together and just be able to compete in this massive arena. It would be a huge spectacle. And then, like you said, yeah, everybody would be able to make some form of money off of it as well, too.
Yep, and yes, I will be sending this to the NCAA, and yes, I do expect them to respond, and I do expect royalties from this.
And the thing is they should be, technically speaking, they would still be able to withhold their NCAA guidelines, because the big thing is, like, the players can't make money off of their name and their likeness for their sport.
That's exactly what I'm saying.
Quote unquote, it's an amateur. And then, yeah, since it's just a card game, even though it's so much more to us, of course, they would be able to do it without breaking any NCAA violations.
So what you're saying is there's literally absolutely nothing that anyone can come up with that would turn this into a bad idea.
That's what I am saying. I think this would be a brilliant idea.
There you go. We've already made a massive difference in the first ever segment of greater societal issues that can be solved by Magic the Gathering of the week.
Dude, I cannot wait to just be able to see all the society issues that we can be solved with Magic the Gathering. It's almost like, have you ever seen How I Met Your Mother?
I actually haven't.
Well, there's Barney Stinson talks about how world peace can be solved with, you can always create world peace by just getting somebody laid. That's what we're doing, but instead it's with Magic the Gathering, how all of society's problems can be solved with Magic the Gathering.
Yeah, and I should probably run for president at the end of this too on a pro Magic the Gathering platform. Maybe create a new party out of it and has Wizards of the Coast as my grand sponsor. But that's not till later in the future because I'm only 23. However, it's never too early to start campaigning.
Exactly. And speaking of campaigning, we now have the Mythic Championship 5 coming up here shortly in a few weeks, October 18th.
What does that have anything to do with campaigning?
Because we're about to campaign how people should make their entrances.
There you go, Willie. That's the segue I'm talking about.
Magic the Gathering events. So
heated it up and knocked it down, baby.
As you guys all know, that there has always been 32 players from the Mythic League were automatically qualified, and then there's been an additional 36 to make up of 68 players, meaning that there's a couple of people that get buys, and meaning that there's a couple of people that are the top dogs, and we believe that they should come out with a full-on WWE style entrance.
Exactly. So one issue I've been trying to solve this week is how to expand the Magic the Gathering audience. And one way to do that is to go viral. And there's no better way to go viral than an electric ring walkout. There's probably better ways, but that's besides the point. So anyways, the top 4 MPL members, these are the players that won their divisions in the MPL. We have Ben Stark, Lee Shichon, Seth Manfield, and Carlos Romao. So congratulations to them, and they're going to get a bye to day 2 of the Mythic Championship. But I think that's not enough. I think just getting a bye is not solely enough of a prize for winning their division. I think because they win their division, they should have the honor and the privilege to not just walk out like a normal person, but to walk out like a freaking king out there and have the immediate mental advantage going into their match.
Yeah, I cannot think of anything else that's better, because we alluded to this a little bit last week, where the Magic the Gathering, the thing that's so great about some of these tournaments is the fact that, like, yeah, they can be played online, but then they are also played in person with the cards. And so just getting that mental game, that mental win right out the gate, I think would be absolutely massive. So, Ben Stark, because you are on top of our list, I think that you should have the number 1 entrance, the one that used to terrify me, that used to rattle me when I was a child, the entrance that Boogeyman did, the WWE wrestler Boogeyman. This man used to come, and it would be like a song, and it was like, "I'm the Boogeyman, and I'm coming to get you." And then he'd like come crawling out, and he'd smack his head with a clock and like break the clock over his head. And I remember being a child, so I was a kid that always had all these action figures for wrestlers, and I never once allowed myself to wrestle with the boogeyman and let the boogeyman lose because I was rattled. And Ben, you can rattle your opponents and have them fearing for their lives, not literally fearing for their lives, because of course we do not condone violence here. But have them so rattled that you just come away with a dominating win because you win the mental warfare right out the gates with the boogeyman type of entrance.
I like it, and I think that could tie in perfectly if someone ever used the Midnight Clock card. Unfortunately, that's not in a deck now, but if you're getting an entrance like that where you're smashing a clock over your forehead, you might as well. And that ties into another idea that I had for a walkout, which is obviously a really popular deck right now, is the Golos Ramp using Field of the Dead. And I think if you are playing Field of the Dead in competitive play, you should not just walk into your match. You should come in a coffin. And here's how it happens. Your opponent's sitting in his chair. He doesn't know what's going on. All of a sudden, boom, all the lights in the building go out. Next thing you know, the church bells start ominously ringing in the background. And boom, all of a sudden the lights come back on and there's a coffin right in the middle of the stage. So already your opponent is just completely rattled. He has no idea what's coming on. Next thing you know, the lid of the coffin comes flying off. Seth Manfield slowly rises out of the coffin. He's staring daggers into the opponents. He's wearing those, those contacts that have like it so you don't have any pupils in your eyes. This is what it makes it look like. He's wearing those, staring right into the guy's soul. His poor opponent's quivering in his boots. Seth Manfield slowly climbs out of the coffin. He's looking at his opponent as he's walking, staring him down, gets in his gaming chair. Then he's ready to go. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is how you win a Magic the Gathering match before it even starts.
Oh, exactly. And then now for my man Seth, who I know is just a people pleaser.
That's
Seth,
what I just did, by the way, Willie
oh,
D.
Did you do just Seth? I'm sorry, you went out of order.
Yeah, I did go out of order.
You threw me off a little bit.
To be honest.
No, it's okay, Graham, because I'm going with Carlos, my man. Carlos, you're gonna come walking out through the stands, just straight up Roman Reigns style. Because like we said, Magic the Gathering is gonna be so huge. The audience is just gonna be filled with thousands of people here in the near future. You're gonna come from the top, just almost like the Price is Right type style, where you're just coming down, smacking everybody's hands when they're like, "Oh yeah, come on down." And you're like giving everybody high fives. We come down there, setting the electricity, and that dude is just shaking in his boots, sitting at the table, like, man, the crowd's behind Carlos. And then boom, they'll be cheering you on the entire time, and you've got yourself a victory.
That's a pretty good one. And last but not least, we have Li Shi-san. And for this one, this is real special. Has anyone seen the Super Bowl where Lady Gaga comes swooping down from the rafters? That's what we're doing here. We're wearing wings. We're wearing a meat dress. We're wearing whatever it takes. Some poor dude is sitting on his chair. Meanwhile, an MPL top 4 player comes cruising in angelically from the rafters, glides like a majestic eagle right into his seat, lands perfectly perched on his chair, immediately locks in and starts ready to go. Doesn't mulligan his hand because he gets a great hand automatically just from the sheer angelic luck that comes from that walk-in. Goes first, gets whatever his perfect one drop is, and they're off, and they're rolling. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is how you go viral in the Mythic Championship. And that is how we get the game out to a broader audience.
Yeah, I cannot think of anything more electric. Like we said, we're here. We love the game, Magic, and then we also love the spectacles of just anything. You got something with the spectacle, we're here for it. And that's what we're trying to do. Bring entertainment, excitement, combined with the beauty of the game.
Yeah.
WWE.
Someone in the Aether Hub Discord, and if you're not using Aether Hub for all your content creation, definitely log on and start doing it, aetherhub.com. It's, in my opinion, the best singular website for Magic the Gathering, posting deck lists, viewing deck lists, posting articles, sharing your videos with a large crowd. It's awesome. We love Aether Hub, obviously. But someone in the Discord, and you should also definitely follow the Discord, said that they once did an entire pre-release wearing a luchador mask with like no mouth and no eyes, and that's incredible. So we encourage more stuff like that. Go to your local game store in a luchador mask, go in a costume, whatever it takes, rock on, and keep the flamboyancy going.
Yeah, exactly. I think, or even some people come cosplaying as their favorite card that they have. I think that would be electric. Like if you have a certain card that where you can actually cosplay as the wizard or whatever, Like that would be absolutely electric as well.
Yeah, no, yeah, do that. That's a
Could
good
you
idea.
imagine? Could you imagine a couple people coming cosplaying as like a Krinko? Like, dude,
Because
and they got a
well,
couple, and then you have like your fan club would just be like more of them, given that Krinko can create like more little ones whenever he attacks.
yeah, that it is funny though, because I'm pretty sure the goblins that he makes don't have pants on, so maybe he put some pants on.
Well, yeah, of
But
course.
other than that, it's a vague picture though. It's up for interpretation in the card art. I'm leaning towards they don't have any pants, but in real life, I would recommend wearing pants. Just keep that in mind.
Yes.
Yeah, so Willie B and I both went to see the Joker this weekend. It was a really good movie. And don't worry, I'm not going to spoil anything. This will be a totally spoiler-free analysis here. But so this rendition of the Joker was actually a pretty serious movie, and a lot of it was about mental health, and it was very reflective of mental illness in our society today. But it did kind of lead up to the Joker becoming the criminal mastermind, the agent of chaos that we all knew from earlier renditions. And that got Willie B and I thinking, what if instead of the Joker channeling his deviousness into criminal activity, what if he channeled that into Magic the Gathering?
Yeah, so I think this actually kind of alludes back to our first segment of solving societal problems using Magic the Gathering. And I think we could solve society's problems of the Joker and the havoc that he was creating. But if he got into Magic the Gathering, I think just the way that he processes and thinks some things, he would be one of those guys that would come out and just think of the most jank deck possible, which obviously, as you guys know, me and Graham, big fans of any type of just sticking it to the man, so to say, and just like using whatever it takes to beat the top decks that everybody's using. And I think that's how the Joker could have made a living. And he still would have created chaos, but in a much more easier and safer fashion for society as a whole, whereas he would just come in and just literally play all these cards that make no sense, and you look at them like, why? And the next thing you know, you're losing and you're walking out and Joker's lifting up the trophy right above you.
Yeah, he's always been the criminal mastermind of the operation. Well, more of the brands, with Batman is always the bronze. So let's turn that mastermindness and let's put that into Magic the Gathering. And the Joker would immediately, I think, if I had to power rank superhero villains that would be good at Magic the Gathering, he's got to be at least top 5.
Yeah, no, 100%. I think the Joker would actually, like, I couldn't only imagine some of the decks that he would come up with. And it would just, you'd be sitting there playing, like, you think that you have it all under control, and the next thing you know, you realize that you're backed into the corner, and then you're, like, terrified. It's almost like whenever they do it, like, just even in superhero movies all the time, whenever they have the villain and they think that they've won, and then they realize that the villain's so much more powerful, and so, like, they got all cocky, and then now they're, like, starting to tremble and fear because they realize how, like, powerful they are. That's literally what it would have been like playing against the Joker in Magic. Like, you'd be like, I got this, come on, who let this clown up here? And then you start trembling in fear when you realize what he actually has laid out in front of you, and he's just about to obliterate you.
Yeah, could not agree more. I'm trying to think of any other superhero that is on his same level. If I'm thinking of the great supervillain, if I'm thinking of the great supervillains of modern history, Thanos is more of a bronze over a brands type of guy. If he did have the Reality Stone, that's kind of overpowered. But let's assume, for the sake of argument, he doesn't. I'd put the Joker over him. I don't know. Maybe Loki from the earlier. He's kind of a sneaky guy. But anyone you can think of, Willie B? I can't.
No, out of villain, I can't think of.
Bane wouldn't be that good. Yeah. Dr. Ock, no. Kingpin, definitely not. Catwoman, probably not. This, to be fair, I did just go down the Batman villain super arc, but Harley Quinn probably wouldn't be bad.
Maybe like
Venom would be awful.
Maybe Loki.
Yeah, I'm thinking Loki is probably number 2, and put Joker number 1. It's a good question. It's food for thought. I'd like to hear your opinion in the comments if you have someone better. But anyways, more of the story is, if anyone out there who sees the Joker, just think that whole storyline would have been way different. Many lives would have been saved. Gotham would have been a completely safer place. If only he got into Magic the Gathering. So everyone, just another reason everyone should get into Magic the Gathering.
I agree. And then now, it's time to figure out what you have been playing, Graham. What have you been playing this week?
Yep. So I posted an article on Averhub today because when I originally made the stack, I played against Golos Ramp, basically the newer version of Bant Scapeshift from last semester. And if you are new to the game, you don't know how Golos Ramp works. It's basically revolves around this card called Field of the Dead. And Field of the Dead is a land card where if you have 7 lands of different names in the battlefield, whenever a new land enters the battlefield, you create a 2/2 zombie token. So how the deck plays out and how basically it's probably the best deck in Standard right now. If you look at Fandom Legends tournament from October 3rd, I believe 4 of the top 5 players were playing this deck. And at SCG Richmond, this deck finished number 2. So it's having a lot of success, and you see it a lot on the ranked ladder because you really don't need too many new cards that require wild cards from the version of last Standard. But basically, I played this deck like 10 times in one night. It was getting ridiculous, and I beat the deck like 8 out of 10 times. And the 2 times it beat me was it just like hit the curve at its best possible way, where you can start getting zombies off at turn 3 or 4, which is insane. Doesn't happen incredibly often, but if that deck can curve out perfectly, it's basically almost impossible to beat. But I did beat it 8 out of 10 times, so that prompted me to post an article claiming that my deck is the best deck in Standard to beat Golos Ramp, and I honestly believe it is. So I posted that article, and then today I played for about 3 hours, and of course, literally in 3 hours of playing, best of 1 with an aggro deck where I went up against a lot of different people, did not go up against it once. So now I don't even know what to believe. I'm flummoxed on to whether everyone is playing Golos Scapeship or if everyone's already moved away. Maybe I was just the matchmaking putting me up against other players. But anyways, Willie B and I are both playing Knights decks this week. 2 different Knights decks. Willie B, you're playing Rakdos, and I'm playing an Orzhov variant. And the key combo to beat Golos Ramp is by combining Lucky Charm, which is the artifact that states whenever you play an adventure spell, or the sorcery or instant part of the adventure spell, you can copy it. And I'm combining that with Smitten Swordmaster, which basically is your opponent loses X life and you gain X life, where X is the amount of knights you have in the battlefield. So if you have Lucky Clover on the battlefield and you play that card, you can usually deal immediately 10 to 12 damage with it. If you have 2 of them, you can deal 20 damage in a turn. The most I've ever done is 36 damage in one turn.
Oh my god!
With that combo, which is always great because you can pull victories out from the jaws of defeat. And there's nothing better than when you hit your opponent with the good game emote, and you know in the back of their mind they're thinking that you're about to concede, and then you pull off like 24 damage in one turn out of absolutely nowhere and win with them not being able to do a single thing about it. That's absolutely electric. There's nothing better than that. But the rest of my deck is similar to a lot of Knight decks out there. It's playing 4 copies of Murderous Rider, 3 copies of Murderous Rider actually, 4 copies of Midnight Reaper, all the 1-drops that you would typically have, most of the other 2-drops, and then it's playing Corpse Knight and Venerable Knight or Worthy Knight. Worthy Knight's the knight where whenever a knight enters the battlefield, you create a 1/1 human token. So Corpse Knight and Worthy Knight's a pretty good combo because whenever you play a creature, your opponent loses 2 life. It's really great against the Golos Ramp deck because it just provides a passive life gain strategy. When they get their horde of zombies out there on the battlefield, you're not going to be able to attack through that. So you need to come up with a way to beat them that doesn't involve swinging in for damage. So this deck's got an aggro base, so you can typically get them down to like 10 to 12 life before they really get set up and start taking control of the board. And then you can stall long enough where all you got to do is have like 4 or 5 knights out on the battlefield, play Lucky Clover, play a Smitten Swordmaster, and boom, you win. It's pretty great. I'm having a ton of fun playing it. I don't know if it's better than the one you're playing, Willie B, though. Why don't you explain the Rakdos version?
Yeah, so basically the big differences is that I use Fervent Champion and Spawn of Mayhem, and the reason that I use these two is because it gets, obviously like you said, you were handling some success. So when I first used your deck, that whenever you sent it to me, I found the same ways, but at the same time, I wanted to beat people a little bit faster, so I just felt that it was a little bit easier whenever you use Fervent Champion and Spawn of Mayhem. Plus, I really like the Fervent Champion because it's a haste card, and as you know, even from like my first deck when I use Questing Beasts, like I really like the haste idea, and then I'm just a huge fan because I like to just be able to play a card and use it right away rather than just hit him where it hurts, just kind of blindside him. Because obviously, if with all the other cards, whenever you play it, they can try and start and think of how to counter. But when you have that haste ability, you can just boom, punch him in the mouth right away. And then even with the Spawn of Mayhem, it allows me to just always feel comfortable, even if my life points are a little bit lower. Because the nice thing about it is that if I have 10 or less life, then you get that +1/+1 counter, which is just always huge. And it's dominant card as is, and so that's just a big reason why I like having that, is just in case I do find myself in a hole or in a pickle, I can always just rely on that one to kind of help carry me during the tough times as well too.
Yeah,
So that's why I like using this deck instead.
it's definitely so. I would say Fervent Champion is a better one drop than the white one drop, which is Venerable Knight. Where I think my deck has the edge, however, is I'm playing Cavalier Knight instead of Spawn of Mayhem. So you're right, Spawn of Mayhem is definitely more aggro, and you oftentimes do kind of find yourself a little low on life with this deck, I've realized. So getting that +1/+1 counter, making it a 5/5 with flying is pretty insane. But I personally like the Cavalier Knight, even though it's a little more expensive to play. I just think having the removal and the lifelink side of that has worked well for me. I don't think that would work nearly as well in the Rakdos shell, though. The other big difference between the two is you're playing, I believe, the Stormfist Crusader, which is the black-red knight with Menace that the beginning of each player's upkeep, you lose 1 life and draw 1 card, and I'm playing Corpse Knight. So, I really don't know which one of those is better.
Yeah,
they each fit in different play styles. It's interesting. We're going to have to play each other with these and report back the results.
Oh, exactly. And plus, obviously I couldn't play the same deck as you even as much as I liked it. I had to tweak it a little bit just for pride's sakes, because admitting that I use the same deck as you is just not
right.
possible.
Well, I think that's one of the best parts about playing with your friends is that you can kind of go back and forth with each other and talk about what you have that's working and have some good rapport going back and forth in the deck building process. Because it's really good to have a sounding board to get some feedback on whatever you think is good and whatever isn't being good.
Yeah, no, that's a huge thing. That's why it's always nice to find these little clicks, and that's why it would be cool if you guys joined Discord, so then we could even play with each other. And that's why it's always cool being on Aether Hub, because then you can have that same kind of interactions. Because same thing, other than Graham, I don't have that many friends that play Magic the Gathering, so it's hard at times to make that connection. Just try these new things. Plus, whenever you play ranked or whenever you just play online in general, for some reason you want to just be able to beat them, more. You want to assert your dominance. Whereas, sometimes when you're playing with friends, like especially if it's super casual and you both kind of say, yeah, we're just trying to figure out what we like, it's a lot less pressure. And so you're more willing to take a risk and just try more funny things as well, too, which, actually kind of leads us into this next segment of our Jank decks of the week.
Yep. Willie B, what is your Jank deck of the week?
So my Jank deck of the week actually comes from a man that Graham interviewed, and you guys should go listen to the interview. It was the second episode of our podcast. I sadly was not able to join the interview, and that's probably going to be how it is most of the time. Most of the time it'll be Graham doing the one-on-one interview, because sometimes 3 people in the booth is just too much. You know what I'm saying? But there might be some times where all 3 of us get at it. But I'm giving a shout out to my man MTG Jeff. Thank you for this Jank deck of the week with the cat tribal. So basically, it's an all-cat deck. What you do is you use a Johnny Strength of the Pride to create his Pridesmates, and then you just keep attacking them. And I was telling Graham, there's like a couple different ways that you can do this. So basically, what everybody does whenever you use this Jank deck is that you just keep using the Strength of the Pride to create the Pridesmates. That way you just get so many Pridesmates out there. However, I was talking about, and it's worked for me. I've only used it like a couple times, but if you draw your Pridesmates early on and you already have a bunch on the playing field, if you do the +1 where you gain a life equal to the number of creatures that you control plus the number of planeswalkers you control, that allows for this to happen for the Pridesmates. Whenever you gain a life, you put a +1/+1 counter on it. So by gaining a lot of life equal to the numbers of creatures, you can put more +1/+1 counters. And so that's helpful, but I really only use that one if I get lucky and just keep drawing the Pridesmates early on. Otherwise, then I just do the -2 life to keep creating Pridesmates, because like I said, I sometimes like those decks that are also annoying as well too. And that's just the whole point, is you just keep getting all these Pridesmates out there.
Yeah, it's pretty funny that you see Icon of Ancestry being used on a cat deck. I appreciate that. And I appreciate that he's creating a tribal deck for a tribe that you don't see very often, and that's always super fun to do.
So shout out to our man, MTG Jeff. He's a great one. He was a great guy. I mean, the podcast, the interview with Graham and them was just phenomenal. Definitely give it a listen. It was not only insightful on Magic, but even YouTube as a whole, and for us content creators about, what it could possibly mean for us. But yeah, thank you, MCG Jeff. You were a fantastic guest on the show, and you have a fantastic Jank Deck of the Week. And shout out to you for giving the cat some love.
Love it. All right, my Jank Deck of the Week comes from a Averhub, a famous Averhub user. I see his decks all the time on here, so I'm glad to give him some recognition. His name is Legend VD, and this is a Simic deck that uses the Great Henge and the Feasting Troll King, but with a bit of a twist. And the twist comes from using Emery, Lurker of the Loch, and Witch's Oven and Golden Egg. So Emery, Lurker of the Loch is a 3-mana blue 1/2, and that reads, this spell costs 1 less to cast for each artifact you control. And when Emery, Lurker of the Loch enters the battlefield, put the top 4 cards of your library into the graveyard, tap it, put an artifact card from your graveyard. You may cast it this turn, so choose one. So this is a really cool deck because he's able to mill his artifacts, create a bunch of food tokens. In the process of milling his artifacts, he's able to probably mill the Feasting Troll King, and he can create food tokens with Oko, he can create food tokens with Gilded Goose, he can create food tokens just by playing the Golden Egg, which counts as a food token. So it's pretty realistic. You can get a couple food tokens down on the battlefield at a very early stage. And then when you do that, you can sacrifice those to put the Feasting Troll King down wicked early, turn 3, turn 4, probably turn 4 at the earliest. And that is pretty ridiculous. The Feasting Troll King is the 7/6 Vigilance and Trample. Whenever Feasting Troll King enters the battlefield, if you cast it from your hand, create 3 food tokens. So unfortunately, if you are able to do that, you don't get to create the 3 food tokens when it enters the battlefield. However, just having it on the battlefield is at being able to cheat it out early is pretty crazy. And then if you have it out, it basically makes the Great Henge just a 2-mana card, which is insane. Of course, he's playing Wicked Wolf to capitalize on the food tokens, because whenever you sacrifice the food token with Wicked Wolf, it gets +1/+1 counter and becomes indestructible in end of turn. I really enjoyed watching the gameplay from this deck that Legend VD posted to YouTube and to Averhub. Definitely check it out. I tweeted it out earlier. Really fun deck, really cool deck, and good job to you, Legend VD. It's a great deck you came out with.
Yeah. So while we're also on the note of just talking about people creating decks, obviously, we do our Jank Deck of the Week, which always comes from different content creators, but now we're doing our, straight up content creator deck of the week. And mine comes from Merchant, and same thing, like we said, and we'll always say it, you can find all of these decks on Aetherhub. You feel free to ask us. We can send you the links, or you can just look it up for yourselves as well too. So this one comes from Merchant, and it's Krinko's Valiant Mace. Part of the reason why I am also a big fan of the idea of cosplaying Krinko, because I think it would be electric. Plus, I thoroughly enjoy this deck as well. And so basically, the way that this deck works is the main combo is to equip the Mace of the Valiant with the Krenko, and Mace of the Valiant is a card that will give the equipped creature a +1/+1 for every charge counter on it. And so the trick is whenever a creature card enters the battlefield under your control, you put the charge counter on it, and Krenko creates an amount of goblin tokens equal to its power whenever it attacks. Therefore, when it attacks and it is equipped with the Mace of the Valiant, you can create a gazillion goblin tokens. So you can just keep creating like these little goblins over and over again, especially whenever you put these, counters, these charge counters on it. And the deck also, plays Embercleave, which is the legendary red artifact that gets cheaper to play for every attacking creature and gives the creature double strike. So this just makes Krenko, just almost kind of like stupidly large. And that's why it's so much fun. That's why I really enjoyed this deck. Obviously, it's not my number one deck, but it was a deck that is very fun to play and I can see the reason why I enjoyed it. And I just like the idea of creating this deck. So shout out you, Merchant, for creating this deck. Shout out to you for showing all of us Aether Hub and Magic fans this beautiful deck.
Really cool deck. I watched the YouTube video of that too. So just to clarify what the content creator deck of the week is, this is a deck that we just think is great. That may or may not be Jank. So this one is definitely a Jank deck too. So kind of double dipping into the Jank deck of the week. But really cool deck that we just wanted to feature. And yeah, that's a fun combo whenever you can get it off. That's for sure. The Mesa Valiant and the Krenko combo, and he got it off in the gameplay, and that was pretty cool. My content creator deck of the week comes from Alias V, and she created a deck. The reason I'm featuring this is because this is something that I myself wanted to create, so I'm glad she beat me to it, so I get to see it in action. But this deck revolves around Starfield Mystic. And by the way, the deck's name is the Mardu Enchantments of Doom, excuse me. So Starfield Mystic is a card you really don't see that often, but it's a 2/2 for 2 mana, 1 colorless, 1 white. Whenever enchantment spells you cast cost 1 mana less to cast. And whenever an enchantment you control is put into a graveyard from the battlefield, put a +1/+1 counter on Starfield Mystic. So the more important ability here is the ramp ability that creates enchantments you cast to cost 1 or less. And the enchantments that she cast are Oath of Kaya, Outlaw's Merriment, which is a really, really cool card that, I don't think it's that good, but it's a very fun card to play with. That's the card where at the beginning of your upkeep, you get to randomly create a creature token, and there's a couple different creature tokens that it can randomly create. So super fun card. It's hard to predict exactly how games are going to go with that, which is always cool. She's also playing Doom Foretold, which at the beginning of each player's artifact, that player sacrifices a non-land, non-token permanent. If they can't, they discard a card, they lose 2 life. You draw a card, you gain 2 life, you create a 2/2 white knight creature token with vigilance. There's a lot of text on that card, but you basically only see that in Esper Stack so far. So it's cool to be seeing it in other areas. Then she's also playing Prison Realm for removal. So honestly, one of the best things you can do with this deck is get a 2-mana Prison Realm, which is pretty insane. And then she's also playing Brought Back, 4 copies of that. So if your enchantments do find their way into the graveyard, you can just get them back with Brought Back and keep the train rolling. Really cool deck, Alias V. I'm glad that you made it so I could get to see it. It was something I always wanted to see, and really appreciated the deck, so shout out to you.
Yeah. Thank you to all of our content creators. Thank you to Aether Hub for allowing us to be able to see all of these Jank decks and just awesome decks as a whole. Like we said, this will be obviously posted to Aether Hub, and you can find Graham's deck. And like I said, try out my deck as well too, where you exchange for the Spawn of Mayhem and the Fervent Champion, because I'm not going to say I'm superior to Graham, but I'm definitely better than him at everything in life. So
fair enough.
Yeah.
Room for some debate there, but I'm not going to argue too hard. Yeah, I'm curious to hear everyone's thoughts on if they like the Rakdos or the Orzhov version better. I posted an article about mine, but I'll post Willie B's deck too, and I'm curious to hear some reaction on that. So at the end of last week's episode, we mentioned that we were going to be challenging each other 1v1 mono-y-mono to create a deck where we were both playing Happily Ever After and Once Upon a Time. So we did, and Willie B beat me. So congrats to Willie B. Unfortunately, I was at a wedding all weekend, so I haven't had a chance to do the promised Twitter embarrassment video, but that's coming. Do not fret. And yeah, you got me this time, Willie B. But next time we do something like this, it will be a different story.
Until next time, I mean, shoot, we might just have to combat with these decks that we have currently. So that'll probably be our next one. Same thing like we have said before. Please contact us on Discord, leave a comment, share these posts, follow us on Twitter, do whatever you guys would like. We really appreciate any feedback that you give us, and it'll help make the show even better. And if you guys are willing to ask us questions, we'd love to do a fan mail segment as well too, where each of us picks viewer mail or listener mail, and we just answer one of the questions to our ability.
Yeah, 100%, totally. Yeah, you got anything else going on? Anything exciting happening this week, Willie B?
Let's see. Exciting things in my life. Fall break is about to start, so that is a riveting experience. Yes. Finally about to get a week off, so let's get it, man. Let's hit these.
Lots of Magic the Gathering.
Yes, lots of Magic. Lots of Magic the Gathering. And
are
then,
you going anywhere, or are you just not going to school?
I'm just not going to school. I'm going to Hendersonville to work for a bit, but you got to do a little work so I can keep buying more Magic stuff. So gotta get.
Unfortunately, society calls sometimes.
Exactly, and I want to be able to use as many of these decks as possible. So obviously, I try and earn as many cards and use my wild cards on different cards. But sometimes you also gotta treat yourself and
drop the cash.
Exactly. So.
Yep. Yeah. So I went to a wedding this weekend. It was in a barn on a farm. It was pretty cool. I had a lot of food, a lot of oysters, a lot of shrimp, a lot of ribs, a lot of pecan pie. Pretty solid night all around. And then, now I'm back at home doing absolutely nothing except for playing Magic. So that's very exciting.
White Claws, baby.
Yeah, I drank a lot of White Claws at the wedding. Don't worry about that. A lot of White Claws and Busch Light. Really two classy drinks for a wedding. They didn't even have champagne at that.
Oh, that's fantastic.
They had a ton of Natty Light and no champagne at this wedding, which I thought could just not sum up Eastern Carolina as a region more than it did.
Yes, I agree. Eastern North Carolina is just a location. Oh, also, I found out my dad texted me today, and so our buddy Slim Jim is actually, that's one of his best friends, and we call him our uncle as well too, is actually out in Wilmington filming the newest Halloween movie. He is actually Michael Myers, so that's always really cool. He once stayed at our house.
Really?
Yeah, he once stayed at our house for a couple months. So
someone a family. Has he always been an actor?
Yeah, no, he used to just be a stunt man. So of course he used to love telling me the story about how Tom Cruise broke his nose. He punched him in the face on accident, and
that's pretty funny.
Busted up his nose, and Tom was like, "Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry," and Slim Jim was like, "Oh no, it's okay," and just popped it back in place.
Yeah, no, Tom Cruise wasn't sorry. He wanted to get one off on him.
Oh, exactly.
Big Tom Cruise fan. I'm looking forward to the next Top Gun a lot. Yeah. But no, they actually filmed. Adam Sandler filmed the Halloween movie in my town this summer too, back in Massachusetts, which is the second Adam Sandler movie they filmed there. So that's some Netflix special that's coming out. But my parents own a regional store. So they turned that into some Halloween event, and then they all get to meet Adam Sandler and all the other cast, which is pretty cool. Unfortunately, I was slaving away over in North Carolina working, so I missed it.
Oh,
but a lot of Halloween movies coming up between both of us. That's cool.
Oh yeah.
All right, Willie B. Well, it has been a pleasure.
Oh, the pleasure was all mine. Thank you, Mr. Pollard, and thank you to all of our listeners, and thank you to Aether Hub for being such a great place to put all of the Magic stuff.
Until next week, this is the Mythic Rare Podcast, and we'll talk to you then.
Bye.